Yeah,
Yeah, here we go. We might as well start with it. let's go on this.
The World Championships is, of course, in Glasgow. Many people, including myself, is quite annoyed that they moved it and from the original spot. But maybe that's because they don't want, a Yorkshire scenario with a lot of rain. But equally, they're also doing this unique thing where they're putting everything, all the events into the same week or something. And I mean, yeah, you talked about it over on the stream on the Cycling Dane channel. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a headache.
Well, yes, you mentioned it's the Super Worlds as they've been titled in the middle of August in Scotland, not just Glasgow, all around Scotland as well, with the mountain biking taking place in the Highlands, some of the road racing taking place around sort of the Edinburgh Stirling area as well. So, yeah, the Super Worlds as they've been called, but this has put stress on cycling federations all across the globe because everybody who's going to these Super Worlds needs hotel rooms. There's a limited amount of hotel rooms in Glasgow for not only the federations and the riders themselves, their team staff, all the journalists who are going to come here, all the fans as well, the volunteers who are coming to Glasgow to work on this and so forth. There's an awful lot of people who are involved and have an interest and they're moving into Glasgow for this event. This has meant that hotel rooms are incredibly hard to get or they are incredibly expensive. Particularly if you're looking up towards Fort William, like around there where the mountain biking is, it's so expensive normally, and now it's astronomical. They're saying that it's a report by Chris Marshall Bell, who's now on the Radio Cycling podcast, is saying that the hotel rooms are looking towards £300 per night. That's roughly €350, $350 per night for a room at a hotel. On top of this, for a lot of international people, either from, I believe, from outside the European Union, some even from inside the European Union, will now have to go through administrative barriers as well, given the implications of Brexit. Well, you now have to pay for a visa waiver, whatever it is, the paperwork. I'm a little bit unsure about it, but there are federations coming forward and saying that it's costing roughly £100 per person. Once again, that's about 125-ish euros, dollars per rider. Add on the staff members, add on these people who are also coming to this event. This is becoming incredibly, incredibly expensive. And in response, a number of federations are stripping back their approach to the Glasgow World Championships. One of whom spoke to Chris Marshall Bell of Radio Cycling Podcast. It was Jan Kirsipuu, former professional rider who's Estonia's head coach. He stated that they're only bringing under 23 and junior riders to the World Championships this year because it's so expensive to get the hotels, to get the visa costs, and to fly out all the equipment. Remember, because it's in the United Kingdom, also quite far north in the United Kingdom, you have to transport everything by plane. Getting it by car from somewhere like Estonia is just going to be way too difficult, which also adds on costs, especially if you're connecting out of London, because Glasgow Airport, I've flown out of it maybe 100 times. The connections are really bad. It's like there's a very limited scope of places you can fly to. So you're most likely connecting out of London. So it's going to be extra costs as well from getting to London, then transporting everything further north. So the costs of these world championships, the Super Worlds as they've been titled, is really detracting a number of federations. And this is also discriminating against federations which don't have as much money. So we're looking at African Cycling Africa also has spoken about this on that podcast where African nations are being sort of prohibited from competing in this event. That's a huge loss. The World Championships are going to be in Rwanda in a couple years' time. Binyam Girmay sort of fell onto other people's radars because of his World Championships performance in Leuven back in 2021. Missing out on these African teams and these riders from smaller federations, it's a huge loss, especially when we're trying so hard to diversify and to expand the nation portfolio of our sport. So this all in all means that the Super Worlds could be tarnished once again by the question of the moolah, the money.
I mean, I've got an Airbnb, which is 2 spare beds
Are
going.
you gonna share it with
So
Estonian
if
riders?
Maddie's Mikkels, whatever, you know, hit me up. I've got 2 beds going spare. I've got a caravan as well. I've just turned this into a like
Yeah,
Facebook
there you go.
marketplace now. I've got a caravan. It's a 4 berth. There you go, easy. That's 4 people. Take about to Fort William or that's for mountain biking. But yeah, anyway, back to the point at hand. This isn't great because, like you say, part of the whole beauty of World Championships, like especially with Binny, was that you get these breakout performances from smaller nations. I know it's like Maddie's Mikkels did really well at the under-23 Worlds last year. So it's a shame to really deny access to good, talented riders just because of administrative costs, basically. Like, that doesn't really seem particularly fair. All the big nations, your Belgians, France, Italy, Spain, etc., etc., other people who will bring like a full roster of riders, and they probably, although it'll be a bit of a headache for them to organise it, they'll still be able to do it. Is it just going to lead to a World Championships which is even more heavily dominated by these teams because they actually have the funds to field all of the riders and all of the Swan years and etc. etc. Because that does make a difference in a rider's preparation if you can't bring your chef or your team doctor or your what X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of kind of support roles essentially. It's like trying to go to a music concert without audio technicians or something like that. It's a bit you're missing part of a band basically going into it. So that's not ideal because I didn't know about this. So hopefully, I don't know, can the UCI supplement?
I mean, there's been a number of reports coming out this week about the UCI, David Lapartian, and a number of sort of questionable decisions, financial and administrative, that have been made in the UCI over the past sort of year or two. I don't think that they're sending out any support. I believe actually the federations are annoyed that the UCI is not responding to their sort of quarrels about these problems with getting hotels, sourcing out all these visas and administrative and legal sort of processes. I remember back in the 2014 Giro, we had the Colombian team who struggled to get paperwork to race when the race was in the United Kingdom back then. They almost got denied their place at the Giro with like a week to go because they didn't have the right paperwork. It will be a shame if people can't come in because of sort of passport problems or visa problems and so forth. It is just a huge problem. Also, there is another aspect to this that I want to talk about with the Super Worlds, and it's the fact that everything's happening in one go. So you have riders out there like Mathieu van der Poel, a Tom Pidcock, who might want to do the mountain biking in the Highlands one day, and then they have to compete in the road race or the time trial. It's all happening at the same time in the same month. It's going to be really hard for them. I believe Pippo Ganna could be competing on the Friday on the track and then on the Sunday on the road. It's huge. One day he's going to be in the velodrome in Glasgow. Then the next day he's racing up to Stirling Castle. Well, 2 days later racing up to Stirling Castle in the TT. It's just so hard for these riders who want to do multiple disciplines at the Worlds. I think it's really going to disadvantage them. On top of, all this like money talk that we have here, like the riders who want to do here, that, and everything. It's just going to be tough. And maybe for these riders from smaller nations, that's a way for them to save money. If they want to enter the World Championships, someone from a smaller nation may have to sort of jump in, do the track, and then 1 minute do the road race. Like, it's tough. I don't think it's going to be a success story World Championships. They're experimenting, yes, but I think this experiment is going to grossly backfire. A lot of the riders were annoyed anyway because their whole schedule has been torn apart for 1 year. Where no discipline is happy because all the disciplines are now in the middle of August, when the road race World Championships used to be in September, the track ones used to be in April. Like, they've all moved around. And for what? Just so you can have this big event in Scotland for everyone to sort of like, what was wrong with the format beforehand? Yeah, on the ground, it's probably going to be great. It's going to feel like the Olympic Games. But for all these athletes and just the longevity of this idea, I think it's going to flop.
It's definitely built for the spectators, isn't it?
Yeah. And I
completely agree. Like, with everything you just said, it is such a bad idea.
For the spectators, it will be fantastic. Like, you got all the sport happening in one go. I was in Glasgow for the 2014 Commonwealth Games and the 2018 European Games, which included the European Cycling Championships, road and track. And the atmosphere there was great. The fact that you could sort of see all these events and do all these activities was incredible, and Glasgow really rises to the occasion. No doubt about it, it will be a great host city. As a fan, it'll be bliss. But I think behind the scenes for everybody else, for the actual sort of structure of this event, it's a mess.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree on this. But yeah, Glasgow should be a blast, and Patrick's going to be there as well. So we're probably going to get something with Patrick
Ooh,
there.
I can't wait.